Hi everyone, it's Akansha Dimri from Tech Funding News. I'm the editor-in-chief and founder, and we are today in Mansion House meeting some brilliant founders at the Antler's European Conference 2024. And we have with us Daria Stepanova, who's the co-founder of AIRMO. How are you doing, Daria?
Thanks. Very nice to be here. Yeah, doing great.
Yes, so we are meeting after a year exactly. We met at the Antler conference last year and this year. So what do you find different from last year to this year?
Yeah, there are different companies this year. You can see that portfolio of Antler grows. The companies are in the new stages. It's really great to be in a group of peers that develops.
That's true. And how are you liking the conference? Did you meet anyone important or interesting? I saw you were talking to someone.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, many new investors. The portfolio companies that I didn't know founders before. It's always great to meet. And for example, there's one more portfolio company in space tech.
Lovely. So could you tell more about yourself and brief us about how your journey has been so far? How did you get into space tech?
Right. Story-wise, I've been studying aerospace engineering in my master's, and during my work at Swiss Space Center, where I did a project while studying at EPFL. I had a project of building components for the CubeSat, and since then I got super curious about the small satellite field and industry, about the pace and the speed from requirements definition for the mission down to launch and utilization.
And this was which year?
Oh my God, it was so long ago.
Yeah.
It was, almost 10 years ago.
Almost 10 years ago. So you have been for a decade in space tech.
Yes, that's quite crazy to recognize, but decade in space.
And when did you found AIRMO?
Founded AIRMO a year and a half ago.
Okay, and what was the idea? How did you come up with this thought of AIRMO? And there were 4 founders, I remember. So what's the story behind the foundation of the company?
Yeah, right. I was working in the small satellite sector, building small satellite-based missions for different types of applications. We were kind of, in my past occupation, we were kind of a small agency building space tech missions for customers with different types of payloads. And in my role as a CTO, I've been receiving quite many requests for missions around carbon footprint monitoring. And I love the intersection of climate and space. I got super curious about the field and had an idea of exploring it a bit more. The first thoughts were, it should be fairly easy and straightforward to launch a satellite for monitoring methane or CO2 emissions. After some research, I figured out that it's not that easy and straightforward, that only big governmental satellites at that moment were capable of delivering high precision, high accuracy data. And I met my CTO, Dr. Enrico Medeo, was at the moment ESA retired dinosaur, how he calls himself, with a lot of energy, a lot of ideas on how to reuse the knowledge that he has been gathering during his work at ESA and utilize it in a faster pace. And we met, so basically with a certain market request for precise and accurate data around carbon dioxide and methane emissions to deliver transparency over carbon footprint management, and the technology that Enrico has been working on all his life and was able to bring in the team.
That's amazing, and that's a lot of work into satellites. So what does AIRMO exactly does? And also, what are the problems you're solving for the planet as a whole?
We are building one source of truth for greenhouse gas emissions monitoring, utilizing space technology. We see climate change as the transition, as a coordination problem of managing transition on the scale of the planet. And at AIRMO, we believe that this process should be data-driven, and we deploy the infrastructure. We put our sensors in space and on aircraft to collect the data about our emissions, to make our decision process around achieving our net zero goals more efficient. Yeah, that's on the mission. On the mission level, what we actually do, we start our first task. We start with energy sector and methane emissions coming from the energy sector. There, we support oil and gas customers with monitoring their infrastructure, such as compressor stations, refineries, pipelines, to update their emissions inventories and detect leakages coming from the infrastructure. Okay. We also support regulators with shaping regulations around monitoring and verifications of the reports. So we work both mutually with both emitters to help them understand and map emissions coming from the infrastructure, as well as with the bodies that are verifying if we go in the right process.
Addressing the climate crisis is typically about stopping or reducing emissions rather than quantifying them. Why is AIRMO essential for that?
To be able to reduce emissions, we need to detect them, quantify and localize, and that's the process. Mapping emissions coming from the infrastructure, understanding what are the instruments, what infrastructure is more emitting than the other, and then planning the decarbonization strategy accordingly to the data. That's how we support our clients. So with our technology, we detect emissions, now with aircrafts and soon with satellites. We quantify, understanding how much gas is emitting in time, per unit time, and localizing is a pinpoint in the spot where the emission is coming from. With this information, our clients can make informed decision making and decarbonize their infrastructure faster.
That's wonderful. So basically, you're into data analysis, and you're using aircrafts also, right?
So
and then you are launching the satellites?
We build an instrument that we're a space team, so we started with the space component. We're building the instrument that our target goal is to deploy the satellite, to deploy it on the satellites and deploy the network of 12 satellites in total to achieve the global visit.
How many satellites you said?
12 satellites. We want to launch 12 satellites.
Can you repeat that sentence in one go?
Our end goal is to deploy the constellation of the satellites with 12 satellites to achieve near real-time and global outlook on emissions. We see quite a lot of need and quite a lot of traction from our customers that want to receive already the service today. That's why we adapted the instrument from the satellite to the aircraft, so we can already today work with our clients to help them monitor their pipelines and refineries.
So Daria, it would be nice to know about your market size for AIRMO right now.
The market size for emissions monitoring worldwide valued at 22.4 billion euros, and it consists of three big groups. First is direct emitters, all the companies that are actually emitting methane or CO2 or other trace gases in the atmosphere. Second group is environmental sustainability platforms, or environmental intelligence, how we call it. These are multipliers, so companies that are using environmental data, or they take data from financial reporting to build products and services on top. These can be also financial institutions, banks that utilize ESG data, rating agencies, insurance companies that want to manage their assets based on their ESG performance. And finally, regulators here, governments, NGOs, and other bodies that need transparency over the reporting and whose goal is to equip us with tools and protocols to efficiently reduce our emissions. So
that's a big market size, I could say.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of different industries that you are actually competing with, I would say. Or complementing.
I would say the outlook on the customers is quite broad. So
Okay.
if while some customers are a little bit slow into adopting the green practices, On the other side, yeah, there are much faster moving companies that from other customer group, yeah, that are willing to work today already.
So in your space, who are your competitors right now and how are you different from them?
Yes, our biggest competitor is still Excel. Most of carbon accounting is done in Excel sheets using formulas and emission coefficients. That's what brings us to the situation where 70% of methane emissions are accounted wrong. However, on the other side, there are ground sensors, there are airplane sensors and drone sensors that lack precision or not scalable enough. There are a couple of satellites and commercial satellites as well that approach the same problem, where we see our USP is in the instrument and measurement approach that brings emissions monitoring to the new level.
Got it. And also I want to understand that you are already using satellites, right?
We're building now the satellite.
You're building the satellites. So how will the detection or data be different from those which are there for ground-based detection?
The difference between ground-based and space-based detection is in the coverage, revisit, and precision, while ground sensor might be much more precise, but it allows measurement only in one particular spot in space. Satellites can provide revisit rate over the same area. They can, with the same satellite, we can measure assets in China, Canada, or Middle East in different times during the day. So, as you see, sensors provide precise but very scattered information and very hard to scale. On the other side, satellites are delivering this autonomous, sometimes near real-time information about emissions. On the other side, the precision is lower than with ground sensors.
There is a recent space news that it's difficult to get into the space as a sector, industry, and also in the space. So what are you doing for that and how you're planning to tackle that, and also how you're managing your satellite constellation?
At the end of the day, it's as a company, you need to have enough resources to procure the satellite, to procure the launch, and to build the instrument. On the other side, the process is fairly straightforward and anyone can follow. The standard way to monitor greenhouse gas emissions from space is shortwave infrared spectrometry. And this technology or measurements from these instruments are influenced by additional external atmospheric effects. These are coming from aerosols, winds, cirrus clouds, and these all additional effects, they distract the measurements and decrease the accuracy of end data. With combining this technology, quite established, with LiDAR technology, so that's something we are specialized in, allows us to filter all the noises from the measurements and increase the accuracy of concentrations, retrieval, and fluxes, meaning that we can deliver more accurate data, more robust data, and much more reliable service. That's our value proposition. That's where we see our competitive advantage.
That's great. And how big is your team right now?
We are 18 people.
And are they based in Europe or?
Yeah, most of them are based in Europe. We have 3 offices: Berlin, Munich, and Luxembourg.
Okay, great. Are you planning to hire more people?
Yes.
And when is that?
Yeah, we have a couple of exciting positions open.
Oh,
yeah.
That's lovely. And adding more human element to this interview, we would love to know what are your early challenges that you would like to share with most of the females who are inspired by you, and what were the challenges as a female in space tech in Europe landscape?
Yeah, I think I'm a wrong example, because as a female founder, I don't know, I didn't feel any particular challenges. I feel we have challenges in everyday work. We're building very complex instruments, and every day there's another engineering task we need to solve. But we equipped ourselves with a very strong consultants and advisors. Our scientific team is really strong. So there, every engineering challenge we face, we have a lot of support around us. On the technology side, I would say, it's a day-to-day business. On commercial side, regulations and awareness helps us a lot to overcome the barriers. That might be a bit strange to hear that the bad guys that are polluting our environment are willing to cooperate in the field of emissions, managing their emissions. On the other side, it's really great to see the change. It's really great to be a part of this change and to help companies to be more environmentally responsible.
That's great. Is there anything that you wish you had known before, and you would like to change that?
I mean, if I would know a year and a half ago something I know right now, I would progress much faster, indeed.
What advice would you give to other founders who are looking for funding?
Have a very strong story and as many proof points as possible.
Just remind me, you're from the technical background, right?
I'm an aerospace engineer.
So you are breaking the bias and an inspiration for many.
Yeah, I hope so.
Thank you so much, Daria. It was lovely talking to you. And thank you to our readers for joining us. This was our last interview for the Antler conference. And this is Akansha signing off for this particular episode. See you.